Now, before we can use this test map we've created, we first need to add our spawn zone, and over here we need to add our safe zone. Press Shift A on the keyboard and add a cube. Next, turn on your snapping, set it to incremental and absolute. And now, whenever the cube moves, it'll snap nicely to your world. To move the cube, you press G on your keyboard. You can move the cube on the X-axis by pressing X, and you can move the cube on the Y-axis by pressing Y. Here I move the cube to where I want players to spawn. Then I press GZ to move it on the Z-axis. Next, press S on the keyboard to scale your spawn zone. Try to fit it without clipping any walls, otherwise players might fall through the map. Finally, I move it up on the Z-axis and type in 0.1 to move it slightly off the ground. I feel like this is good practice for preventing players from falling through the map. In order to stay organized, I created a collection called zones. Next, I drag my spawn zone into the zone collection. Next, I double-click the cube and I call it spawn zone. This will tell Crab Game to spawn players on the ground underneath the cube. For the finish line, I duplicate the spawn zone by pressing Shift D. Then I place it where I need it. Finally, making sure that the safe zone is in our zones collection, I rename it to safe zone. This tells Crab Game that players inside this zone are safe from race elimination. Next, I add the invis keyword to the safe zone. This makes the safe zone invisible. I export the map as an object, then I overwrite the old map.object file. And now our map.object, map.mtl, and textures are all ready to go for testing. Next, you'll need to download the Crab Game Custom Maps mod. I've created an installer for it, however, if you do not wish to use this, you can follow the instructions in the description. Make sure you take note of where the installer is installing to. You can see where your game is installed by right-clicking it in Steam, going to Manage, and Browse Local Files. As you can see here, mine checks out. In my case, I don't install because I already have it installed. Once the mod is installed, you'll want to launch the game. If it's installed correctly, the game should take a while to launch. This is because the mod uses something called bepin.ex. bepin.ex just takes a while to load for the first time. Once you see the main menu screen, close the game, then relaunch it. Now the map mod will be loaded into your game. Next, you need to open up your file explorer, and you need to make sure your file extensions are turned on. You can do this by going to View and turning on File Name Extensions. Next, you need to create a new file called map.config. Just make sure the .text at the end is removed. Inside of map.config, add all objects textured, just like so. This tells mapmod that all of our objects are textured. Now go to your Crab Game folder and create a new folder called Test Maps. Inside of Test Maps, create a new folder and give your map a name. Go ahead and copy your files into your Test Maps folder. In your Crab Game folder, create a new text document called maps.txt. Create another new text document called host.index. Inside your host index file, put use local. This tells the mod to use the files from your computer rather than from some server on the internet. Next, open the maps file and enter the name of your map folder. This tells mapmod what test folder you want to test in game. And now finally, we're ready for our first test. Launch your game and enter practice mode, then select your map. You'll load into the wrong map, but don't worry, this is just part of the loading process. Hit escape, then click on the new map that appears. The scaling's off and only the spawn zone and the safe zone work. In the next episode, we'll make the tire work and we'll add clipping to these stairs. We'll make it so you can fall through this water. Then we'll make the spinner and ladders work, the snowball pile, and then we'll take it from there.